Hey, it's me, Delores, the pastor's daughter, and I am back. You know how I do these sporadic lives, right? I wanted to just come on and talk to you guys about this live that I saw. I guess it was about a week ago now. And I've been promising y'all on Facebook. I've been going live mostly on Facebook, but I've been promising my Facebook friends that I was going to do a review of this live broadcast. So, we're going to break it up into parts because when they do lives, okay, if y'all have ever watched Princella, she does like super long lives. And so we're probably going to break it up probably into three. It's an over 3 hour live broadcast. So we're going to break it up a bit. But I've been watching her for probably a good couple months. And for the most part, I've been binge watching her. Y'all know, like when you find like a YouTuber that like the message is resonating with you and you're like all interested in it, it's like you just, kind of binge watch. So that's what I've been doing. Hold on, y'all. Let me do a little sound check. Can y'all hear me all right? Interested in it. It's like you just. Okay. All right. Go ahead and give me a thumbs up, you guys, if you don't mind. But anyway, so like I was saying, now when you like discover a content creator, YouTuber, whatever, then you just start binge watching their stuff, right? So like that's exactly what I've been doing is binge watching her content. And I wanted to come on and kind of talk about it a little bit, but in a different type of with a different perspective, right? Because you guys know I'm Delores, the pastor's daughter. So I'm gonna come at this review from a slightly different angle, probably a little bit different than what you're used to. Now, what she talks about mostly is relationships between men and women. But I want to kind of give it a little bit of a perspective from a daughter's perspective. Okay. So, um, as we review this video, this live broadcast, I'm going to give you my commentary, kind of like my assessment of what is being said, but I just want to give it to you in a slightly different way. Before we get into that, though, you guys, I want to share with you this new book that I have completed. It's called The Religious Narcissist Decoded. It's a step-by-step guide to discerning and the tactics and impact of religious narcissism. And so, if you guys have been following my story for any amount of time, then you know that I am the daughter of a narcissistic pastor. And so, I wrote a memoir released over a year ago, about a year and a half ago, called The Pastor's Daughter Provoked. And that is where I talk about my experience growing up as a daughter of a narcissistic pastor, the spiritual abuse that I endure and that I witnessed growing up, as a praise and worship leader, youth minister, and all of that stuff in my parents' church. Now, I was a double PK, right? So both of my parents were pastors. And the way I like to describe it is like my mom was like the angel and my father was like the demon in disguise. And I know that sounds terrible, right? But I mean, that was the reality of the situation, right? So, I got to see like both sides of ministry from someone who was really compassionate and someone who cared about the people, someone who had empathy and real love for the people that she served. That was my mother. And then I saw, the wolf in sheep's clothing. I saw the manipulator, the one who used God, used the Bible, twisted scriptures to manipulate, to control, to get what he wanted, to, be self-serving. So I have, that kind of like that dynamic that I witnessed growing up. And so that's what I talk about in my memoir. So, y'all go and get it. Okay, go get it. It's on Amazon. Also, you can purchase from me. Um, I am going through a bit of a rebranding process right now. So, um, I'm not at a point right now, like in this particular, like in this little, like transition period where you can go to my website and get my books. But um, You can still get them from Amazon, and if you obviously know me personally, then or live around me, then you can get them from me, or you can get in my inbox and send me some information, and I will mail it to you, mail you a signed copy of it. Um, but right now my website is not, it's going, I'm going through a rebranding process, so my website is not functional at this very moment, but it will be functional this week. Okay. So probably like give me to the end of the week to get myself together. Okay. Because I'm going through a transition period right now. So back to the religious narcissist decoded, right? Let's go back to this guidebook. Now, y'all, this book is going to absolutely change the game because it is going to give you all of the information that I was able to obtain, study, observe, witness, all of the things, right? From my own, upbringing in the church. Now, I don't know if you guys remember me telling you this, but if you guys know Dietrich Haddon, he is a famous gospel artist. That is my first cousin, right? And he is on my father's side of the family. His mother and my father are brother and sister, right? And so, and I talk about this in my book as well, but there was a rival between our families, right? So I like to think of it like the Hatfields and the McCoys, gospel edition or whatever. Like it was like a whole big thing, and I don't even really know if like his side of the family really knew how much like my family kind of like rival. And when I say my family, I really mean my father, right? And he kind of made it a thing where it was like a competition between our families. And so, I talk about all of that in my book, but that is, I'm saying that just to give you guys a little bit of insight as to, where I come from, and my family wise, like all of my family, for the most part, gospel artists, ministers, prophets, preachers, and have several churches and all of that stuff. So like I'm kind of deep in it, you know what I'm saying? So I have a pretty good insight into the inner workings of the church and how religious narcissism has really like played out in churches and in families and all of that stuff. So, I give you guys a lot of insight into what I have witnessed. I was one who was privy to those, backdoor meetings and, all of the, talk behind the saints' backs and all of that stuff, So I have a lot of insight that, I'm giving you guys. But as far as religious narcissism, there was a YouTuber, and actually it was a white guy, right? He said that he believes that 90% of pastors are narcissistic and abusive, right? Of course, like that was like when I discovered that it was early on in my process of just trying to figure out who my father was, like once you, and I think we've all gone through this journey if we have realized that we've come in contact with a narcissist or we know a narcissist or whatever, is we go down this whole rabbit hole of just trying to figure out like who is this person, what is this person like, what are they doing, give me all the information that you could possibly give me, right? So we go down this rabbit hole of searching, right? Well, because my father was a pastor, I went down this whole rabbit hole of trying to figure out the religious piece of things, right? So like, okay, what is going on with him, as far as like, with religion, so how does this narcissism play out, in church, and what's the impact on the saints, and what's the impact on, families when they grow up with religious narcissism and all of that stuff, right? So I discovered this guy. He said, look, I believe that 90% of pastors are narcissistic and abusive. Child, when I tell y'all, like that kind of took me aback. And then I started to think about it like, you know what? I think he's right. I really think he's right about this assessment. That percentage sounds about right from what I have observed. And now that I'm like educating myself on exactly what this is, I'm seeing it. I'm seeing it everywhere. It's like it's a thing. It's really a thing. And so I started just kind of observing my surroundings even more. And so I'm at a point where I believe that it's more than just pastors, right? I think that for one, the Black community is plagued with narcissism. That's what I really truly believe. And so I'm willing to, put it out that I believe that 90% of Black men are religious narcissists. And I believe that that is because our community, meaning the Black community, is a highly religious group of people. And so when you have someone who is showing the narcissistic traits, the entitlement, the grandiosity, all the things, um, usually it comes off in a religious like undertone or overtone, or there's religious or religiosity in it, right? Because um that's how they can impact those around them. Now, a narcissist is gonna find their way in, right? And so, if you're talking about like, okay, in the white community, you have white people who interact with white people mostly, right? And in the Black community, you have Black people who interact with Black people mostly. Like that's the way it goes. So when you say that there is a religious narcissist within your community, who are they? Who are they manipulating? Who are they exploiting? Who are they taking advantage of? It's going to be the people that surround them, right? So if from my observation being a Black woman, I have come to believe that 90% of Black men are religious narcissists. And so I don't talk about it in the sense of race. In my book, in the guidebook that is coming out next month, right? It's available for pre-order on Amazon Kindle. So you could pre-order the digital copy, and but it'll be out on the 2nd of August, right? But I believe that a fallacy of ours is to think that religious narcissists only exist in a church. And I think that we are doing ourselves a huge disservice, and we are like pulling the wool over our own eyes to believe that it's the only person that you really need to look at is the person behind the pulpit, or the person in the pulpit, or the person that's on the deacon board, or or whatever, the prophet or whatever. I think that we need to realize that with the age of like, with media and all of that stuff, that a lot of these narcissists have gone out there. They've already left the church. Okay. They realize that, look, I can impact more people, and do more do more of my dirt, outside of the church walls, right? And so a lot of them have gone to social media. A lot of them have their own channels. These are like the gurus and the hoteps and the Israelites and the this and the that, and they'll call themselves anything. They'll come up with their own religions. They'll they'll do all the things, right? Because that is the way that they can reach the people that they want to manipulate, control, exploit, whatever they want to do. Okay. And so I'm trying to shed light on this whole thing of religious narcissism, um coming from my own perspective of being the daughter of a narcissistic pastor, but also realizing that as soon as we all left the church, my father took to social media. He realized, hey, well, I'm losing the people that I had control of inside of these walls, right? But I can have a bigger impact, right? I can reach people that aren't even in my geographic location. I can reach people overseas, and people up north and in the west and in the east, and all the places, and still be able to do what I want to do, still be able to control and manipulate and exploit and use and abuse and do all the things that my narcissistic self wants to do without having the restrictions of the four walls of a church. Okay. So it's important that we raise awareness about religious narcissism, because it's everywhere. It's absolutely everywhere. And so what the reason why I wanted to to bring this particular content creator, Princella, to my channel, and just kind of like talk about the things that she has talked about, is because I have noticed a parallel between what she says in her commentary about males, right? I've noticed a parallel between them and my father, for example, right? And my brothers, for example. And so I think that me adding my perspective to the equation also will help women to realize that it's not just the man that you're sleeping with, right? It's not just the man who um is, like a romantic interest or whatever, right? It could be your brother, it could be your father, it could be your uncle. Obviously, those same men who you are sleeping with are a father and a brother and an uncle to someone else, just may not be you, but he's still that male, he's still that person. And so it's important for us to realize that it will come a time, right, in a lot of our lives where we have to not only cut off the person that we may be sleeping with that has these narcissistic tendencies, but we may also have to cut off our fathers, right? That's the place where I am right now. So last week I did a video about the 7 signs that it may be time to divorce your parent, your toxic parent. And that's where I am in this process of, me growing and developing and educating myself and finding my peace and my purpose, is that I'm realizing that I'm going to have to cut the people who, I've known my entire life, right? The people who, were instrumental in bringing me into this world, namely my father. And so it may be a situation where you all, will have to do the same thing. So I just want to empower you and just bring a different perspective to this, excuse me, to to her message, because we have to realize that these men that are abusing other women out there may be our fathers, may be our brothers, may be our cousins. And we as women um, cannot create a safe space for ourselves and for all women if we are knowingly encourage like and I say encouraging, but I don't mean like that we're necessarily encouraging, but if we are not actively working against what they are doing, then we are in a way enabling and encouraging their behavior. So like I told you guys, I've watched a lot of her videos. I've like binge watched them, right? And it's kind of like the way I feel about it is like this particular video I felt like was good to kind of start this discussion, because she's being interviewed by someone who is kind of, I think, kind of known or well known in the pro black space, and as far as like pro black movements. And this guy's name is Sinetter. I've never watched him, but I do like the questions that he asked, right? There were times, I felt like he cut her off, before she was able to completely um s- you know answer the question. But for the most part, I think that he asked the questions that most males will want to know. And so with, his questioning her and her responses, I think this is probably like a really good video for us to just kind of do a bit of a review on. So that's why I chose this one. So let's just go ahead and get started. I want you guys to be able to see the comments there. You can see the chat right here. And obviously, if you guys have anything that you want to say in my chat, feel free to to add your commentary there, and I would do my best to respond. But like I said, I'm going to be reviewing this. We're just going to I'm just probably we'll probably get to let's see, it's like 20 minutes into this video. So we'll probably go for an hour, and then we'll come back tomorrow and with part 2 of it. And like I said, it's probably going to end up being in 3 parts, but I want us to do a really good review of this just from the angle of a daughter who, is aware and has really exposed, I've exposed my own father and his narcissism and, his abuse of the church members and, and my family. And so it may come to a point where you guys have to do the same thing. And I want you to be empowered and knowledgeable about what you will possibly face. So let's go ahead and get started with this. Okay.
Welcome to another Sarnetta edition, House of Consciousness Information, man. Let me tell you something right now. This is going to be one that y'all really don't want to miss. This sister is hardcore, straightforward, and she don't hold no punches back, and that's the way I love them. Don't hold no punches back. Without any further ado, I would allow my sister to go ahead and introduce herself to the family. For those of y'all who don't know who she is, you're going to make sure you subscribe before this whole thing is over to her channel. And without any further ado, Princella, please introduce yourself to the family.
Hello, everybody. My name is Princella. They call me the Queen Maker, and a lot of people call me Pastor P. Many people call me Pastor P because of my tone of voice, and they get the Holy Ghost when I sound like I'm preaching to them. But I'm an educator more than anything. And what I do is I empower women. And they call me the Queen Maker because it ain't about how you look, it's about how you move. And so in order to move right, you got to think right. So I change women's thinking process and how they move in the world. So one of the things that I do is I teach women what they need to know so that they can choose better. I mean, because that's the whole thing in the atmosphere, right? Choose better. So that's what I help women do.
Beautiful. Let's get right into it. Who is Princella, and how did you come up with this name?
Okay, well, I actually didn't come up with the name. None of the names that I have, I came up with. I started out doing a lot of stuff on TikTok back in 2021, and when I was doing it, the things I have a way of saying stuff that just make people really understand and get it. So somebody in my comment section, she said, "You not just a queen, you a queen maker." And then I told a friend of mine, and he was like, "That's your new brand." He said, "That fits you." And I was like, "Okay, well, we gonna roll with the queen maker." But even though I use the queen maker, this other moniker, the Pastor P, people just call me Pastor P, and it's because of the power in how I say things. I'm very passionate with what I say. So I've been studying for a long time. I got 25 years under my belt in knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. So I started out in the conscious game about in 2006, and around 2015, 2016, I was on my way out of the conscious game. But I went to school for cell and molecular biology. I got my commission in the Army as an officer in logistics. I was top salesman in the car industry, cell phone industry, and the marketing industry. Also certified as a project manager. And I've been in the music industry. I've done a lot of different things. And I've taken all of the information that I've acquired over 25 years with my personal experience with men and life, and I've combined it in a way that produces a very, very clear picture for women to see in order for them to change their behavior. And the reason why it's so important is because a nation can rise no higher than its woman. So you have to focus on women changing their behavior because the men are not going to do it.
Yes, powerful. Thank you. Do you consider yourself a relationship expert?
Yes and no. Um, yes, because I know the dynamics of what a relationship actually means. And in order for a person to function in a relationship, they have to be in need. Relationships are typically for broken people who have voids that they need to fill, and so they typically use other people as replacements for the voids that they don't want to fill on their own for free. So they'll hop into a relationship to get this done. So I understand that. And so instead of me being a quote unquote relationship expert, I focus on developing individuals and eliminating the need for a relationship.
Yeah. Okay. Did y'all hear that? She said typically, she believes that people typically get in a relationship because they are trying to fill a void. And so her objective is to help people so that they don't have to fill these voids, right? They don't have to do something. This is what my paraphrase, right? They don't have to do something that is possibly detrimental to them or not serving them because they are trying to fill a void. If they could fill those voids on their own, then would they need the relationship, right? Would they need to maybe compromise? Would they need to place themselves in a situation with someone that is not healthy? That's what I'm taking from this. Let me know what y'all think. Let's continue.
All right. Before I go any further, let me first shout out my sister. Shout out to Sister Genesis. She had made this happen. So I want to give a nice peace and black power shout out to my sister Genesis, man.
Yes, she's a great person.
Going on. Yes, she is.
Yes.
I found out later on that she was the one that designed Sarah Suttonsetti's whole website. You know?
Mm-hmm.
It was bad, and I was loving that website that he had too. I was like, damn, that joint is bad, but I never knew who did it. Let me ask you, you have done extensive research on the behalf of men, because all the videos that I click on and I watch, I see you be going in, and that's one of the first things I did when you came up. I said, please, whatever you do, be yourself, go in, don't hold no punches back. Because if anything you say hurt me, then that means that rock came and hit me. You know what I'm saying? So you only holler, a hit dog hollers. I don't care and worry about what you say about men. I want you to be honest and truthful. In fact, I might end up agreeing with you. Because they call me a simp every day that I defend the sisters. You know? So let me ask you, can you tell us about the history of working with working in male environments such as military, sales, and even trucking?
Oh yeah. So first and foremost, males are very lazy. Women outwork men. Yeah, they outwork men. And in every industry that I have worked in, women have outworked men. And one of the car sales is a very, very male dominated industry, and it's real cutthroat, right? Especially if you was working in the 90s, but it kind of, it been kind of tapered off a little bit since they have more regulation in that industry now. But back in the 90s, it was real cutthroat. But dealing in this industry, as when I was in it, I was around 27 years old, 27, 30, in that range. I was working with a lot of cats that came from that 90s real cutthroat. They had been in the business for 30, 40 years, right? And so they was top. They used to being at the top. So when I came in as a newbie, fresh, I have a strong work ethic about me, right? See, they got buddy with the managers. They get these things called house deals, right? Where a manager has a connection and he sells the car, and then he just puts a salesperson's name on it and give it to them. So a lot of these cats was getting deals like that. I never got any deals like that, right? And so I ended up really, really outworking these guys. I would come in early in the morning before the actual floor opened up. So the service department will open at 7. I would go in at 7. The sales floor don't open until 9. So I got 2 hours to catch real early customers. These cats, they don't work like that, right? So when I got there, the first 10 days, I was like at 9 cars in 10 days. I was salesman of the month the first month, and I was skating through these guys. And so they got upset because of my work ethic. But you can't get these dudes to do nothing. All they do is talk about sex all day. And because I have this quote unquote masculine energy about myself, men tend to accept me as one of them, even if I don't identify it. I'm just this cool chick that they feel real comfortable around. So I'm this one little young chick working around a bunch of dudes, right? My manager, right? Cock Diesel, White Cat, right? And we got a whole floor of salespeople. They all see me the same way. So one day, we in a circle. It's about 12 of us. I'm the only chick there, right? In this circle. Manager gets to popping off about how his wife leave the house and how he be having sex with her niece, right? And they all talk about how they be screwing over their women. I be watching them cheat at work. One of my coworkers would leave early. Now, they would get mad at me, but they would leave early in the day to go have sex with chicks on Backpage, right? This one Backpage was still up. And this dude would leave every day around 5 or 6 o'clock, right? Talking about, and come back and tell me like I'm one of the guys and show me the pictures of who he's sleeping with, even though his wife was one of the top executives at Verizon at the time, right? It didn't take too much long after that before he got caught up in the prostitution ring. So a lot of these dudes, I'm watching them, how they handle women. I'm watching them cheat on their wives. I had one salesperson come, he would always talk about his wife, show me his wife, but then he would also come back and tell me how he was screwing the receptionist. And they would sneak off, be in one of these brand new cars, right? Getting busy and stuff. And I would sit there and watch this. I watched my first sergeant get demoted, right? He got demoted for messing with a private. So I have seen men, I have interacted with men for so long that there's nothing that they can pull over my eyes. There's no wool. I have 25 years worth of experience with them in a multitude of capacities, not only dealing with them in relationships, dealing with them as my mentors, dealing with them as co-workers, dealing with them in the studio. Everywhere they're the same mentality.
I see. This is one thing that I really identify with her on, is because this is how I grew up, like the same thing that she's saying. This is how I grew up. I have 4 brothers, and of course my father. My mom used to always work a lot, and she was going to school for most of my childhood. And so I was always around men, like always. So there's like a certain comfort level that I have. And so, excuse me, hold on. Ooh, excuse me, y'all. There's a certain comfort level that I have around men, but there's also a certain comfort level that men have around me. And so it was like the basically how she's talking about it is the same way it was for me. I would hear like those conversations that they would have. My brothers used to use my poetry so that they could like woo girls, so that they could give them to girls and impress girls. But it was my poetry, it was stuff that I wrote. Um and then, I would overhear my father talking about, sexual things. I even wrote this in my book. My father, I even heard him talk about one of the members of the church, and she didn't have any teeth. She didn't have front teeth. And so he was talking about how she, could possibly, and I don't even know if he was saying it like from experience, that she had actually done anything to him or he had done anything with her. But he was talking about how she could give good oral because she didn't have front teeth. And so like I would hear like them joke around and stuff like that. um and of course, I was in the military as well. I was an officer in the military. And and so I was always around, all of the male officers, the senior enlisteds, and I would see, a lot of things. And I would hear a lot of things. And I was one of those officers that they didn't, a lot of people didn't mind, even enlisted didn't mind like telling me stuff, and just talking to me. And so, and of course, I would just listen and just observe, like sometimes, the best thing to do is just listen and observe and just, take in what you're hearing and what you're seeing and observing and just file it away, just file it away of, you really just kind of like learning people, you observing people, learning people, analyzing people, and you just file it away as, okay, let me just keep this information, so that I'm a smarter individual in how I, interact with people. But let's continue.
And so the good thing about having that type of experience with a scientific background of cell and molecular biology, see, I learned how to analyze data. I learned how to objectively see things and come to rational conclusions by deductive analysis, deductive reasoning.
I like that. I like the fact that she comes from a science background. So when she talks about, what she observes, she talks about it in a scientific way, right? So she points out, the like the statistical things as far as like biology and nature and stuff like that, person's nature. Now, you guys know, you may not know, but I have two master's degrees. I have a master's degree in public administration and business and a master's degree in clinical mental health counseling. I'm a nationally certified counselor in retirement status due to my health issues. But so when I observe things, I'm coming from it from like a human behavior type of a standpoint, and a business standpoint, right? So I come from that angle of things. So I think it's really interesting, kind of like even the dynamic between us and like how we've, from what I can see, has come to a lot of the same conclusion of what we have observed in the men around us, in our interactions with men and with males, and kind of like, where we stand as far as how we interact with them and what our purpose is in helping women, but we come from it from two different kind of angles. And so just keep that in mind as we are discussing this.
Right. And so understanding the order that you analyze human behavior, I just realized that there is a nature about men that women have been purposefully kept out of. Because if women were told the truth about men, a lot of women's decision making would be drastically different.
Yeah.
And so, if we want to live in a better world where we have a viable planet for humans to thrive, you got to get the woman off the ground, because the male, he damn sure not gonna change. He ain't changed since Plato. He ain't changed since Socrates and Aristotle, since Mark Twain, since Confucius. They've been the same for 2,000 years.
Let me ask you this. Are you saying
Now, how do y'all feel about the, that the what she's saying, the statement that she made is basically men have not changed, right? They haven't changed. And I think what we are seeing is, her statement is valid, because what we are seeing in kind of like the dating world right now is, like I have my ear to to the street, right? Even though I'm a married woman, been married for nearly 7 years now. I still have my ear to the street as far as like how it's going in the dating world, because to me, that is part of my service to women out there, right? To the women that I serve, is to be aware of the of what they face in the dating world, in the married world, and whatever world. And so what I've noticed is that there are a lot of men who are saying, and this is part of like what the Kevin Samuels whole messaging was, is that women who have advanced degrees, advanced in self-awareness, getting the mental health help that they need, and doing all the work, right, have basically made themselves ineligible, right, which means that they've gone too far, right? They're too educated. they're too advanced, they're too independent, you know, to the point where they have become undesirable for men. So the messaging seemed to have been for women to kind of like be a little more dumbed down, right? Like younger and um with like you could just basically work at a restaurant and that makes you more desirable to men these days, right? Not the woman with a PhD, you know, or advanced degrees and stuff like that. But to me, that speaks to what she's saying about how men have not changed, because you can see over time how women have changed, women have evolved, women have become more educated, have gotten out into the workforce and done all the things in addition to raising their family and, you know, having children and managing their households and all of that stuff. But have men done that? And it doesn't really seem like that is the norm right now, you know? So that doesn't seem like the average man has,
That
male has.
the woman in the female vagina is the black man's or all men's kryptonite or our weakness, so to speak.
Yes.
Because I seen the video, like I was doing a little research on you, and I seen how you gave Charleston White the business. Woo! I said, man, I'm going to be careful the way I deal with this sister. I don't want her up here killing me and embarrassing me up in here on this thing here. I see how you just demolished him for real.
Yeah,
and
he
so
mad
I want
now.
to say to you that, oh, he mad. Of course he mad. So I want to say to you that, because all men, the first thing I seen when you talked about Charleston White, because he talked about how he think he can just go up in any women. That's all women is made for. But that's not what all brothers think. That's not how all brothers feel, sister. Do you feel it's like you blame all men for just a couple of men that was bad in your life? You know?
Well, let me ask you this question, because
Go
I
ahead.
did just tell you that I have a scientific background.
Yes, you
So
did.
with
Okay,
a
girl, break it
scientific
down,
background, do
sis.
you honestly think that I come from a position like that?
No, I don't.
Okay. All right. So let's get on a scientific, mathematical point of view. You have what is called the normal distribution curve, which has been proven to be true for centuries. The normal distribution curve, no matter what population you are studying or analyzing, they will all fall within this normal distribution, the spread, the normal spread of data for any population. So I don't care if you're talking about men with high top fades, the fitness, the financial pyramid. I don't care what population you're looking at. It's all going to be spread out in this normal distribution. So in the middle of this normal distribution is like a bell curve. In the middle is 68.2 of the population is average or is the median. And if you add those behind going to the left, you end up with about 84.8, about 85% of a population being average and below. Then slightly above average, going to the right, or slightly above average, you have 38.2% of a population, then 2.1% of a population, then 0.1% of a population. When I'm looking at this normal distribution, I'm looking at it in terms of the effects of testosterone on the male's behavior. Okay. So if we're looking at 3 standard deviations to the right, let me give you an example of a person who would be 3 standard deviations to the right, which would be an anomaly, which for some reason, every man thinks that he falls within this range. The guy, the Korean American who was a Navy SEAL, who was a Harvard physician and an astronaut. These were all 3 of his professions. That individual would be 3 standard deviations to the right. How many men in your life do you know who were a Navy SEAL, who are astronauts, and Harvard graduate physicians. How many do you know? Personally?
None of them.
Right. So any person who's claiming.
Yeah, I don't know any either. Do y'all know any? Okay. I don't know any either. But let me ask y'all what y'all think so far. Is like, do you think that her applying this scientific viewpoint to people, to human behavior, to how the average person is in their interactions with each other and the way they love each other and all of that stuff, do you think that that is a valid you know comparison? Like, do you think that that's valid? I personally do, but let's continue.
Not all. First of all, I don't say all or nothing, because I never said a person like this don't exist. He is an anomaly, and anomalies do exist. A 10-year-old that has a double master's in astrophysics exists, but I can guarantee you, you don't have a handful of 10-year-olds with PhDs that's in your circle. So let us go ahead and let's look at this mathematically, so we understand that the average male who say not all, just by you saying that and defending the identity of a male, puts you within the mean and below, because you all say the same thing. So how could you be 3 standard deviations from the right? Because you already said you don't know none. We shouldn't hear no males saying what all these males are saying if they are the exception to the rule. So I don't focus on anomalies. And some, let me give you the definition of some. Some means at least a small number. Let me tell you, it ain't some man that's destroying the world. It ain't some men that's sex trafficking. It ain't some men.
I know where you going. I heard you.
Yeah. See, so
go ahead.
See, I ain't got to have no quote unquote first experience, because any person's experience, just taking an individual's experience over 10 years, guess what? That normal distribution curve just in that person's life is going to pop out to be the same, just like it did with you, because you don't know none. 0.1% of any population is far an anomaly. And just in your experience alone, you proved that to be true by not knowing any men who carry a Navy SEAL background, a physician, and an astronaut. You showed that that's right in your own life.
Right. Oh man, beautiful breakdown, sister.
That was a really good breakdown. And as and it seems to be, that's her tendency, is she really breaks it down. She doesn't talk fast, and making things like complicated. I mean, I think that, the average person should be the average person, okay? Should be able to understand what she's saying. Of course, you have people who've come on her show and really just made a fool of themselves, and pretending as if they don't understand. But what ends up happening is they end up really proving her point, is that the way relationships have become these days is extremely toxic. And so even though her way in some cases may seem extreme, it's almost as if you have to take extreme measures these days in order to correct what has been going wrong for so long. But let's continue.
Let me say this real quick. Shout out to Sister Nepal. Sister Nepal called me up and told me she had a nice conversation with you, and she really loved you and she loved your information. So shout out to Sister Nepal. But Sister Nepal also said she would love to sit down and have a discussion with you as well. So you might have your hands full on that one right there.
Okay,
right?
No problem.
Because y'all two sisters with that knowledge, man. Woo, I respect it. I love a woman with knowledge. But now she did a
on Genesis show, you guys remember him giving a shout out to Genesis. Now on Genesis show, they did a review of this live, and Sister Napa came on and did, I guess, like a debate. And y'all, when I tell y'all, I was like triggered. Okay, I was like so triggered by the things that she was saying, because it was, I mean, maybe we should do a review of that, once we get done doing a review of this. But it was just it was weird. I'm just gonna say that it was giving real weird vibes. Um yeah, so let's just continue.
Let me ask you this, Sister Princella.
Mm-hmm.
Are you a feminist? Because the way you speak, some men might say, oh, she don't care about the black man. She's a feminist. She don't care about us. She's always going in on us. Every time I see her, I know you heard these things too.
Mm-hmm. I've heard that I'm a feminist. I heard that I'm a misogynist. I done heard everything. I done heard everything under the sun. Here's the thing. Another person's perception of you is their reality. It ain't my reality, right? So people perceive others through the lenses of their own beliefs and their own experiences. So the average person is a two-dimensional thinker. He has no ability to comprehend the dimensional analysis or perspectives that I come from. He can only see in black and white. How could I expect a person who can only see it in black and white to understand the color spectrum? Right? Mm-hmm. So any person that wants to box me, it's because they think in 2D, up, down, right, wrong, left, and right. There's no in between. There's no spectrum.
And see, that's really kind of how narcissism is, how narcissists are. It's like things are black and white with them, and so what she's kind of describing is a bit of like this narcissistic viewpoint of life. They're gonna take things to the extreme of their viewpoint, oh, she hates men, who her, and all of this stuff, that just isn't really relevant to the underlying message. So it's like the underlying message is one thing, but to someone who wants to skew the viewpoint, they'll take it to these extremes. Let's continue.
So a person is dynamic as I am, I'm very hard to comprehend, kind of like Prince. I'm not your lover, I'm not your friend, I am something that you never understand or never comprehend, right? They can't fathom it. So because of the word tracks or certain things that make them feel a certain way based on how they feel, they only know how to associate that with a word such as feminist. If you keep listening, the more their feelings get hurt, the next thing or the next feeling that they will associate with, or the next name that they will associate with that feeling that they have inside of their body is misandrous. So it doesn't matter what I say I am, they're going to perceive me how they want to perceive me. And for me, it ain't my job to change their mind, because my audience is not men. A nation can rise no higher than its woman. Galileo said, you can't teach a man anything. You can only help him find it within himself. Jordan Peterson out here saying that 85% of men are disagreeable. You can't teach nobody anything. You can't teach these guys anything. So however they think about me, that's on them. Regardless of how they think, it's not going to actually define who I am and what I actually speak for. So if they think I'm a feminist, in their mind, I'm a feminist. If they think I'm a misandrous, in their mind, I'm a misandrous. And I'm not trying to change their mind.
I love it, man. Oh, man, I love it. You're going in right now. We ain't even really get started. What were your early struggles with men and their behaviors that sparked your research, that made you want to go in and really dig up some research? What was it?
Well, first and foremost, we have to understand that life is a schoolhouse. the school of hard knocks.
Mm.
Life, you cannot become a master. You cannot become wise without experience. And so we think that education comes through books, but in reality, education comes through your life experiences, that the person who pays attention will master, and they'll turn that knowledge into wisdom, right? So it's not what made me really start looking. It's
See, if you notice, like I've just been kind of like keeping a little bit of an eye on the chat here, but see, like, you see how this person says she must got hurt, and then there was another one that says she's just another Black woman who lost in the game of love. It's just that simple. That's exactly what. Oh, uh-oh. Sorry, you guys. Hold on. I think that's exactly, the point that she's making is that, there are going to be people that, will just take it as, one way or the other, black or white, but never really understanding that there are, that the underlying message is the underlying message. And the way that these people will skew it or try to, um like basically like change her, not really change her message, but just invalidate or belittle it, is to say, well, she must have got hurt, or she just hates men, or and it's just like, but are you listening to the underlying message? And if you listen to the underlying message, or the message itself is not even really underlying message, but if you are listening to the message and really taking it in and trying to understand it, then it makes sense. But like I said, a lot of the males that are commenting on what she's saying, they're really just validating what she's saying, and I don't think that they realize that.
it's the experiences in life that have made me think, to self-reflect and analyze, because I know that there is a meaning to life. I know that there is a reason for everything, right? So I was raped at 12 years old, right?
Oh, wow.
I was raped at 12 years old. So at 12 is when this whole thing started, right? Not only that, I was pretty much an outcast from my family. So I've been a soldier for a long time. My mentor, when I was 16, he was 37. He was a political activist, right?
Mhm.
And it was him that kind of put me on the path of quote unquote consciousness. See, that's how I got into the consciousness game, through him. But see, I was already moving in that direction. So I would see him. I would rap, right? So my cousin or friend of the family, who, it was like we was family. We lived next door, but somebody married into the family. So it was more like yeah, yeah, it was more like we was related, right? So he was rapping, right? And as a male in this world, in this patriarchal world, you get more support and stuff like that, right? And so I didn't have a family to support me, but I had a lot of drive, a lot of work ethic, you know what I mean? And so I rapped too, right? But nobody paid me no mind, and they was paying him all the attention. And so I just was like, all I want is somebody to see the skill, the value in me, and help me. That's it. And so I would see this guy. He went to school with my aunts. Everybody in the city knew who this guy was. And so I would be rapping and shit like that. And so one day I was at the CD store, because my grandmother used to put us out the house all the time, me and my brother. So we would have to find stuff to do. So what I would do is I would just go to the shopping center, and I would just go in all of the stores at the shopping center, and I would just talk to everybody. So it was 2 barbershops. I would go to one barbershop. I talk to everybody. I sit in there maybe 30 minutes, hour, talk to everybody, leave, go to the next barbershop, sit in there. Then I go to the laundromat, talk to them, go to the CD store, talk to them. So I would go to the CD store, right? And the guy who owned the CD store, I used to rap to all of the stuff that he would have in there. And so one day the guy came in that went to school with my family. And the guy that owned the CD store, he was like, man, you got good marketing skills and this girl can really rap. You should probably look at, y'all teaming up and maybe you can use some marketing skills to help her or whatever. Right. So that's how I met him. But prior to meeting him, I had then already picked up the Bible and started reading it. And I was like, this is some bullshit. At 7 years old, I got baptized and my grandmother gave me a children's Bible. And I read the whole children's Bible. And out of all of the stories, only one story stuck out to me. And that was the story of Solomon, right? And how he wanted wisdom. So after reading the story of Solomon, I got on my knees and I prayed for wisdom at 7 years old. And it was then that all of the things that needed to give me what I prayed for and asked for came into play, right? And so I started taking notice of everything that went on in life, especially after I questioned my mentor, because he would always be walking around with this African shit on, right? Red, green, and black and everything. And he had an ankh on his finger. And so every time I saw him, I would ask myself, what the fuck this nigga believe in? So one day I finally mustered up the courage to ask him. And when I asked him, that's when he gave me book on 5%ers. He gave me Malachi York stuff. He gave me a bunch of stuff to look into. And that's how I ended up getting in the conscious stuff, right? But he was in politics and wanted to help me in music, but it shifted into him really want to help me with music, to me being his little minion, right? That he would use to push whatever political campaign that he wanted to do. So me and him had fell out. Okay. We had fell out over something real basic, but it had showed me something about him. Right. So what it was that one day I got a seatbelt ticket, right? I got a seatbelt ticket and I'm real young. Ain't nobody ever taught me nothing, right? So we were supposed to put a company together where we was going to be 50-50 partners, 51-49, right? Split. But he always wanted to be the CFO, right? He wanted to be the CFO. And so we ordered like 1,000 CDs and he was telling me he got all these people that support and go by and he got this marketing skills and everything. But when we get them, we split them 50-50. I go and I'm selling my CDs like hotcakes. I'm pushing them and he ain't sold nothing, right? But he want all the money, right? He want to be in control of the money, right? So to make a long story short, he ended up keeping all his CDs, which he didn't sell nothing, and the money from the CDs that I sold, right? So we fell out behind that at one point. But when I got that seatbelt ticket, he told me, I'm through dealing with you, right? You too childish. You can have a company, right? And I don't want no part of it, right? Well, then maybe about a week later, somebody gave Manny Fresh my CD and Manny Fresh was like, oh, y'all got solid platinum hits, right? So he then comes back to me after talking that cash shit and then telling me, yeah, I got Manny Fresh on board. If you want out of this company, you're going to have to pay me millions. And I'm like, pay you millions and we ain't made shit. And I'm the one out here creating this content. I done put my money in here too. And you on this shit. So we fell out, right? So that showed me something about him. Like he was trying to manipulate me. But after getting on this conscious shit, right? I ended up running into this dude, meeting this dude who was in the Nation of Islam. I'm in my early 20s now, trying to get into some wisdom or whatever, right? So I'm thinking I done rolled up on this dude who got some wisdom in the Nation of Islam. And because I hadn't been introduced to it, I'm thinking this is the right way to go, right? Well, make a long story short, I ended up being pimped into some polygamous shit with him and this chick, and both of them ended up taking about 40 grand from me, right? And leaving me without nothing messed up my credit and all that. Now, this is in my early 20s. So I'm being shown some shit big time, right? So I go back and I end up analyzing this stuff, right? So then I'm like, because I'm a business person. So after I get out of that, I move forward and then I start working with this other dude to do some charity stuff. He wants me to go into partnership with him to do the charity shit. So I'm doing all the work, right? And I put the business plan together and everything. This dude starts getting jealous of me because it's like, he'll say something, I'll do something, and he see what I'm doing, and he'll be like, you think you smarter than me. You think you smarter than me. I'm like, what the fuck you talking about? What the fuck you talking about? I've been doing this too for a minute, and so he's getting jealous of me. He got so jealous of me.
Yeah, that's how my father is. That's exactly how my father is. I have seen like jealous behavior in men that should not be jealous. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just like, wait, what? Like, this isn't even about you. This is not like a competition against you or anything. Like, what are you talking about? But and I thought that I was like wrong or like strange for believing this, but I'm just like, why does it seem like my father is like in competition with me, like he's jealous of me, or like, it's really really weird. But so I mean, I'm relating to what she's saying, like I have been in situations where it seems like, you know men are just trying to use you and trying to exploit you. And the crazy part is that I experienced a lot of this coming from my very own father, who is a pastor, So it's like that just threw me for like a double and triple loop. It's just like, wait a minute. This is really not supposed to go down like this, because this is supposed to be a man who believes in God and who's preaching, and like, the Bible is against this type of stuff. So why is he doing this? And then against his own daughter is just kind of weird to me. But like, I'm totally understanding what she's saying. But I think the part of it that is interesting to me is because like what she's saying, I've experienced, but from my father. And so I think that a lot of us, like when we started getting this type of like teaching and this type of treatment, like really early on in our lives, it was from someone who was closest to us, like our father, like our uncles, or like, our brothers, and people who were like considered family, you know, which makes the pain of it that much worse. You know what I'm saying? So like, I'm feeling what she's saying, you guys.
That one day he thought it was just justified to start arguing with me. So I cut the argument off, and he rages up, breaks in the room that I closed the door on and locked the door, and proceeds to put his hands on me because he's upset. Right?
Wow.
See, these are the experiences that I have had with males outside of working with them. These experiences have continued on. Then I had a so-called friend who we were supposed to be friends. He did computer work, right? This dude set me up to take $2,000 from me and a computer, but you're supposed to be my friend, right? So these are consistent experiences that I'm having with males. One of my coworkers I was supposed to be, I was semi-dating at the time when I was selling cars. He was 58, right? And no, he was 55 at the time, and I was 28. He comes to me and tells me, hey, Princella, that my accounts are frozen and I need to borrow $500 so I can get to my next until I get to my next paycheck, because my accounts are frozen. So I give him the $500, and I then have to chase him for my money, because what did he do? He went and told everybody at the dealership that he pimped me out of $1,500 and took my $500 and spent it on another chick. Right? So he's spreading lies about me at the dealership, running games. So all of this shit, right? All of this shit that I have experienced with men back to back to back. All these dudes trying to take something from me. All these dudes trying to set me up for something. I'm watching these dudes, how they do other women. And after the last guy I ended up dealing with was a millionaire. And this sucker was envious of me, and I work for you, right? You're envious of me and you in competition with me, you're sabotaging your own company just to try to fuck with me. That was the straw that broke the camel's back. And prior to that, just before that, I had a friend who was supposed to be my friend try to set me up for a few $1,000s. And all of these dudes call themselves trying to do business with me. And multiple were in this pro-black shit, right? They was in this pro-black shit. And so after all of these experiences, to continue to do the same thing, expecting a different result, that's the definition of insanity. Something must be wrong here. And then paying attention for years, starting in 2015, 2016, I noticed something about the pro-black community. I say, this some bullshit. Pro-black don't mean black people. That don't mean pro-black. Pro-black mean pro-black man. Because the only way that this could mean pro-black man is if a dude thinks that he can still date outside of his race and be pro-black, right? They can talk all the shit about women and dog them the way they do, right? And everything is about them, right? This some bullshit. And so when I started putting all that stuff together, I started to see the male as being used as a biological weapon. Because the first thing I started noticing after that, I was like, you know what, these sexually transmitted diseases barely do anything to males. And these dudes are sleeping with multiple women. These STDs are not for the male. He is the carrier to use to infect or destroy women. These males out here, this shit is some bullshit. So after compiling all of this stuff, right, and seeing the consistent behavior, no matter what the socioeconomic level is, no matter the educational background, no matter what, these dudes are operating very similarly. So there must be something else. So now when I look at people, I understand with the multitude of education that I have in human behavior, science, and math, what I've come to realize is this: there is a definite way that you analyze human behavior. And if you do not analyze it in this order, you will be confused and there will be a disorder in play. First, you must look at the biology, because the biology is the foundation of all life, right? So when you look at the 5 characteristics of life, which is maintain homeostasis, respond to environmental stimuli, process energy, must be cellular, and change and grow, you get that information from biology. So it all starts with the biology first. Then the next step is psychology. And then after that is the sociology. If you eliminate the biological program and try to judge a person on the last step, which is the sociological program, you will never make accurate judgments about human behavior, right? You got to go to the biology first and then analyze the psychology, and then this uniform that people wear, which is the sociology, then you can look at that last, right? So my thing, after I've discovered all of this, I done took a beating in life. I have taken a beating, right? And my thing is, women don't have to keep knocking their head up against a wall. I done did all the work for you, right? I done figured this all out for you, right? And I can make your experiences make sense, because I'm not the only one that experienced that. I'm not. So what is the explanation for women experiencing these same exact things?
Right.
And if you listen to a male, he will try to convince you that you ain't seeing what you seeing. He will try to convince you that something is wrong with you and that you can't make an accurate judgment. I say, well, that's fine. Let's see if it's just some men. Let's just see.
And see, this is what I've been telling you guys, right? Just based on what she just said right then, right? It can't be that you see all of these like same characteristics and it still just be you, right? Like it's just your experience, you're just choosing wrong or whatever. Especially when I'm telling you that I see these same exact behaviors in my very own father, right? I just realized that I'm, one of very few women who has really called it out, right? Because I wrote like a whole book about it. You see what I'm saying? Like I wrote a whole book about it because and then the thing is that I put in my book the whole conversation that I had with my father. And this is when I was leaving the church, and I was leaving the church because my father's abuse of the members and his own family members. So I'm just like this is not this is not right. This can't be right. And so this whole book, right, is like it's a whole conversation of gaslighting, manipulating, lying, threatening. You know what I'm saying? He's doing all of the narcissistic tactics. He's trying everything other than changing, other than actually changing his behavior, admitting what he has done, changing his behavior, being a better person. Instead, he is doing everything else, all the deviant types of things. That's what he chooses to do. So that's what I'm saying is like, I mean, we may be able to say, okay, well, she's wrong, not all men, but you don't, but you have to understand that when we're having a conversation about what has become dangerous for us and what is an issue for us, it's not fair to try to deflect the whole conversation throughout the whole conversation by throwing out anomalies, right? And what we can say for sure right now is that to find a really good man is kind of an anomaly. If you have run into a man who is abusive and dangerous and all of that, the last thing you want to hear is like, well, not all. Because, like, like how do you know? How do you decipher? Because you can't judge it by, oh, he's a pastor. He's gonna be different. Because I'm telling you right now that they're not different. I'm telling you about my very own father who is not different. And I'm telling you that I come from a background of family members who are in the same thing, right? Gospel artists and in the ministry and leadership that aren't different. So you gotta like actually put the right, you know, emphasis on this type of stuff, right? You can't like gaslight yourself and keep like trying to tell yourself not all, especially when you don't even have the ability to discern between good and bad men. You don't even possess the ability to discern the difference. Then you need to assume that they're all bad until proven otherwise. Proven otherwise. That means like time. That means being tested. And really, at this point, it does seem like the best thing to do is to just pull back, work on you, level yourself up, build your community of people that, you can actually build with and actually get support from. And that's not going to be all women either. So still you have to use your discernment even when you say, okay, well, I'm going to build a community of women who are supportive, who are on the same page. You still have to be very careful when you do that. Because what we do know is that there are women out there who will set you up, who will not have your best interest at heart, who will be jealous and envious. It's a fact of the matter, right? But I think that what she's trying to say is that if we can, you know, really work on building our own community, a community of like people who are like-minded, who are supportive, who are also trying to grow and develop and be better people, then you have a better, you have a better chance. And more than likely, that's going to come from other women, because other women seem to possess those natural skills, those biological, the biological makeup to be able to change, to grow, to develop, to, build community, because that is something that is mostly innate with us. But let's continue. Oh yeah, shameless plug, honey. I had to plug my book in there, child. Okay, because I'm raising awareness too. So I'm on my job from my perspective, from my vantage point, from my foxhole. Trying to raise awareness of these things. So I'm not too far off from what Princella believes. I'm not too far off from there. I'm just giving it to you from another perspective, so you don't go thinking, okay, well, I can't fool with these types of guys, so let me go to the church and let me find a pastor or a deacon or something and assume that that's a better male. And it's really not, because that's when you start running into the influx of religious narcissists. So they're doing the exact same thing as these run-of-the-mill regular narcissists that you see, except they're using your faith and religion to manipulate and to control and to exploit you. And here you are, with your guard down, thinking, okay, well, this is a man of God, when it's really a wolf in sheep's clothing. It's only someone who is pushing this religion and this belief system because you believe it. That's the only reason why. It's like, oh, okay, well, she believes that. Well, then that's what I believe too. We all believe, child, for the sake of getting what they want from you. Let us continue.
Because my numbers are shooting up there real fast. It shouldn't be that many women that would relate to what I'm saying.
Exactly.
So if I'm saying some bullshit and I'm just hurting, it's just the men I chose and I just know, then you shouldn't have nothing to worry about, because my numbers should be relatively low.
Well, okay. You see what I'm saying? And the fact of the matter is, there are women that come on her show every single time that she goes live and tells their story. They say, well, you have saved me. You really opened my eyes. I was, being abused, and, I was near death, and, this man almost killed me, and all of this other stuff that women are saying. So it's not even fair to just be like, oh, well, she was just hurt. Oh, well, she just picked a bad one. When all of these women are picking bad, if all of these women are picking bad, then that means that there's a whole lot of bad out there. That's the pickings. And if that's the pickings, that's a problem. Let's continue.
Already know, that's what a lot of brothers will say is about who you choose, is your energy that you attract. So I'm quite sure you heard all of that before.
Of course.
I'm just sorry that you had to go through this at such a young, early age. And of course, you being molested, that could have triggered, and I think that triggered a lot of, you may say, no, that's not hatred, but I say a little hatred for the man. You might say, no, it's not hatred.
You can. Here's the thing: y'all can say what you want, but I don't move. I don't move on hate. You can say what you want, but here's the thing: the true hatred comes from the male himself. Because here's the thing: we see the world through the lenses that we see ourselves. So here's the thing: the male has to lie to women. He has to lie.
Why? Why do you think he had to lie?
Because his nature does not permit him to tell the truth. Because if he just walked up to women and showed them who he was, the aggressive, dismissive, arrogant asshole that he is, the abusive person that he is, he know ain't none of them women gonna fuck with him. He knows that if he ain't got no money, these bitches ain't gonna fuck with him. So guess what? He got to lie. He know he got to lie. So at the outset, the male is trying to figure out what uniform to wear to get a response that he wants, or a favorable response from the woman.
Exactly, which is why some of them will wear the preacher hat. Some of them will wear the pastor hat. Some of them will wear, any type of hat that'll get them the result that they want. It's like we are seeing this in real time. And the fact that a lot of us have seen this does not validate the whole, well, you just pick wrong or not all. It just doesn't validate that. What validates that is saying, well, there's a lot out there, and you have to assume that when a man approaches you, that man wants something from you, that he could be very narcissistic, he could be abusive, and you need to move with caution. You need to move with your safety being your foremost concern, and not be quick to let your guard down, not be quick to believe what they say, not be quick to do any of those things. It's just a fact of the matter.
So this is why the man will go up and ask a woman what you like in a man. Why you trying to gauge what she likes so you can get the information to pretend to be just that? Why you can't just show who you are and let her judge based on who you are?
Are y'all feeling that? Are y'all feeling that statement right there? And for some reason, like, a lot of stuff she says was like already how I believed and how I moved, but I didn't even realize like that, that's what kept like protected me in a lot of ways. It's like when people would be asking me like what I'm looking for in a guy, I would just be like, just show me who you are. You know what I'm saying? We'll, you know what I'm saying? That I'll judge from there. Like if it's you that I like or not, it was just like a bit of like how I moved. And it's not even how I was taught, right? Because I grew up with 4 brothers and a father, and they did not. Yeah. You would be really, really surprised, okay? You would be surprised. You would think that they gave me all the game, that they taught me everything, that they protected me and all of that stuff. But that is just not what happened, okay? It's just not. If anything, I protected them. That's just not how it went down. And I noticed a lot of things that were problematic in males just from growing up in that dynamic. I was the only girl. And so I, was always around my brothers and my father. And it was like I just saw so much. I saw so much, y'all. So much. To where it's like none of it surprises me, and I just learned how to move in my own world, where I could be safe and I could protect myself, because I didn't depend on any of them ever to protect me or to teach me anything to do with men, period. They just didn't. They just taught me by observing their behavior, by observing their natural male behavior. That's how I learned. But not because they actually sat me down and gave me the game.
They can't do that.
Now,
They can't
men
do
could
it.
say the same thing.
Well, here's the thing. They can.
Because hold up, because women also lie, don't they?
Yeah,
women,
they do.
I would say women lie just as much as a male lie. And I would say, what lies do they tell? Sometimes they don't come out and tell a lie. They might tell a lie putting on a fake butt. They might tell a lie putting on some fake breasts. They might tell a lie putting on false eyelashes.
Whoa.
Then when you get home,
that's
you
it.
take all that shit off, and you be like, "Hold up, this ain't the woman I met in the car."
Whoa. You just telling me.
Be also false.
No,
right there.
no, because all you telling me is that the male is fundamentally retarded. No, sure, he is. Because how the fuck you can't tell if some shit is fake? Because I can tell, but I know why they can't tell. Because scientific study shows that the male can't even decode facial expressions. The male don't even have the brain wiring to even decode a person's facial expressions.
Ooh,
So I can understand why
yeah.
he think fake lashes is and makeup, which is clearly on a person's face. I can see why he thinks that's a lie, because he's functionally retarded.
Ooh, okay. We're gonna stop it right there. Okay. We had what? We had 46, 46 and 48. Okay. Listen, we're gonna stop it right there for today. But listen, what did y'all think about that? Like what is your take on it so far? Um eh, she says she's saying a lot. And I tend to agree. I have like there's absolutely nothing that I can say that I don't agree with right now. That her observations seem to be right on point. There's a lot of her background that I identify with military, with males, and that whole dynamic. Like so um with me kind of like I said, coming from a different perspective than her, but still seeing the same things, that's something to be noted, right? It's something to be said about that. And the fact that there are so many women who call into her show, that subscribe to her channel, that are in her comments, and they're, really like talking about how her teachings have really changed their lives, and is helping them to move differently, to move safer, to focus on themselves, to really you know repair the damage that's been done with them. I think that is, I mean, that says a lot. And for anyone to even come against that, says a lot about that particular person, because why would you be coming against that, those types of testimonies that have been happening as a result of what she's saying? And I don't believe that, from what I have heard from her, and I've watched a lot of her videos, I don't believe it's male hate, you know? But even if someone is hating males right now, I'm sure that they have valid reason. And so I would just say let that person work through what they got to work through and make sense of the pain that they experience, because it's not like it's invalid, you know? I mean, who are you to say that that person needs to, you know, not hate, or what I'm saying? Like let them work through through their issues, and work their process, and do whatever repairs need to be done, whatever healing needs to be done, if that is what needs to be done. But more than likely, that person, hating men, or whatever, is not going to affect anybody. It's not going to affect anybody if a woman hates men. So what? If she's going to hate, let her hate. But the problem is that when they talk about Princella, she has a voice, right? She has an amplified voice, and women are listening to that. And what people who have that viewpoint are afraid of is that her message is going to get to women that they want to abuse, that they want to exploit, that they want to mistreat. And they're afraid that if that message gets to the woman that they want to use, or that their homeboys want to use, or whatever, then they won't be able to do what they want to do. I mean, because why else does it matter? Like, if a man hates women, if he's not hurting women, if he's not actively out there like abusing and mistreating women, then what difference does it make whether he hates women or not? I don't care. And you can't say that there are women out there inflicting violence on men. Like, that's very rare. So that's not your reason. Your reason, if you take that stance, is because you don't want the message getting to the ones that you want to abuse and use and mistreat and manipulate and control. And if that message gets to them, then that's going to affect your ability to do the damage you want to do. Period. And so right now, I'm just saying kudos. You know what I'm saying? Amen. Pastor P. And really, these are the pastors that I feel like need to exist in the world today. The ones who actually are speaking truth to what people are dealing with in these streets. Like, don't come at me with no this spiritual concept that you done made up in your mind, and it's all above everybody's head because you trying to pretend like you some, spiritual wise man who is above everybody and all of that. No, you speak to the issues that women are dealing with. There are mostly women in churches today. So if your pastor is not speaking to the issues that women are dealing with today, the violence that is happening in these relationships, the toxicity that is happening in these relationships, parenting, and all of that stuff, then what is he even talking about? What is he talking about? What is he so spiritually minded that he's no earthly good? He leaves you going home dealing with the same issues that you've been dealing with, not feeling any type of empowered or educated or knowledgeable or anything about anything you really dealing with. Like, it's a no for me. So I'm team Pastor P all day because I know what it's like to be under a pastor who is really just wanting to manipulate people, really just wanting to control people for his own, to be admired, to be served, to be catered to be trusted, to be doted on, to do whatever he wants to do. And it's an absolute no for me. And so I encourage you guys to take that stand as well. If your pastor is not talking about the actual issues that people are dealing with today, then it could possibly be someone who is more concerned about his own uplifting. All right, y'all. Listen, let me remind you guys that my latest book, it's a guidebook, comes out August 2nd. It is called The Religious Narcissist Decoded. And we are going to get more into this, you guys, because I'm seeing the parallels. I'm noticing the parallels of what's happening in everyday life, what we're seeing on social media that's playing out, what we are seeing in these churches that's playing out. And I mean, there's not really a week that goes by that there isn't some type of scandal, somebody being exposed, and all of that stuff. So it has to at least raise your awareness a little bit that there is a real problem, right? And so don't be that guy, right? Don't be that guy that's like, oh well, it's just a few and it's not really a problem. And don't do that. Like, don't do that. Don't do like actual people who are, who are actually have suffered under the hands of these people. Like, don't do them like that. You know, like, care about your fellow man or woman, and really be concerned about what is happening in our world. And what is happening is that narcissism is the epidemic of our time. And what we are seeing is that they'll even go so far as to take our religion, take our spiritual beliefs and our faith and use it against us. And that's a problem for me. And I hope that it's a problem for you. Okay, you guys, I love you. Okay, which is why I do what I do, honey, because I love you. And so I will see you all tomorrow. I can't tell you what time, but I'm gonna try to go live in the daytime, okay? Because I don't know what it is about me, child. I'm such a night owl. Like, I need help. I need y'all's prayers, okay? Because I need to be more consistent, and I need to, go live like at a more decent time of day, I think. I think. But if y'all don't think so, just let me know. I don't know. I mean, I guess y'all gonna watch it whenever you're gonna watch it, so it don't really matter what time. I don't know. But y'all let me know what you think, okay? I love you guys, and I will see you later. Bye-bye for now.